Welcome to Inspiration Contagion, where we spread inspiration one story at a time. I am your host, Holly Jean Jackson. Each interview spotlights transformational business leaders, their stories, challenges, and advice for how you too can lead yourself and others through inspiration. Learn how you too can achieve peak performance, build more revenue, and lead the legacy you were meant to lead. Welcome back to a new episode of Inspiration Contagion. This is episode 75. Today, my guest is Hillary Parnell. Hillary is a consummate entrepreneur, wife, mother of 4 boys, and a Diet Coke enthusiast. She has been the owner of the Academy for the Performing Arts and Preschool for the Arts in Apex, North Carolina for the past 2 decades, and more recently founded 2 dance-adjacent companies. Over the past few years, she has shifted her focus from teaching children to helping other small business owners find a healthy life balance while growing their revenue and increasing their profit. She has taught over 10,000 children, grown her dance studio to one of the largest in the world, and coached hundreds of small business owners. Her passion is to help the next generation of entrepreneurs create thriving businesses through leadership, mentorship, and making not nearly as many mistakes as she has. That sounds like quite the whirlwind background. So welcome, Hillary.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
You are so welcome. And fun backstory for how Hillary and I met. We actually were speakers at a TEDx event in Apex, North Carolina. So that's been super, super fun. And we ended up doing some work together. So just sharing that with the audience. You never know where serendipity is going to strike. With that, I wanted to start off, since we're on Inspiration Contagion, with what makes you an inspirational leader, or what would you say is your secret sauce?
I think there's not exactly one thing I can pinpoint being an inspirational leader, drives back to, but basically, I think it falls under a couple categories of being really, really adaptable to any situation and listening to all of those people that are looking up to you and waiting for you to make a move, being confident in those moves, and being willing to admit when you've made a mistake. I think is number one for me. Really, I guess if I had to narrow it down, know when you've made a mistake, be able to adapt quickly, be confident in your decisions, and move forward.
Yeah, I love that you brought up listening too. I actually recently went to this music festival, and they had these workshops, and one was on conscious conversations.
Mm.
And we had this exercise where you partnered up with someone and you had to ask them what they wanted. That's all you did. And for 3 to 5 minutes, they talked about what they wanted, and you could not respond physically or verbally or anything. And a lot of times people got really emotional, and you could just look and make eye contact, but you were really just there to allow them the space to share what they wanted to share. And you were not allowed to give feedback or make suggestions, which, as you know, as coaches, is very difficult. You want to express that empathy and help them problem solve. But I think it's also equally important for us to all remember that sometimes part of being a leader and inspiring others is just holding space for them and allowing them to process their experience, and then asking permission if they want any advice. I don't know what you think about that.
Oh, absolutely. I think more often than not, people just want to be heard, and they want to know that you respect their opinion, and that even if it doesn't end up going in their favor, they know that their opinion mattered, you considered it, and you made a decision for the greater good. And that's really all we can do. But making sure that you listen is so important. I love that. I might do that exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, you should try it with your team. It was really powerful. There was another one where you had 3 people, and you had person A, B, and C. And what you did was, for the first round, person A shared something that they were considering changing or a life thing that was impacting them for 3 minutes. Person B listened to person A and shared what they heard, not any advice, but just shared what they heard or read between the lines from them expressing what they shared, so that the person A felt heard. And person C observed A and B and just gave their observations on how their active listening occurred, what they could have done better, etc. But you were not allowed to give any advice. And it was really powerful. And then you switched from B to C and for the activity to continue. But it was really powerful. And I think it'd be great for a team building exercise as well.
Absolutely. I could also see it working in a customer service setting. We work with a lot of parents and their either their emotions with their children, and understanding how to actively listen to their concerns and then regurgitate it back what you're hearing, I think is fascinating. It could be applied in
Yeah.
so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why it's great when you're an inspirational leader, or you have to be committed to constant growth and trying new things and experiencing new things so that you can add those things to your toolkit.
Mhm.
So, with that, I want to ask you, what does inspiration mean to you?
I think inspiration is what makes us see the best possible outcome, and giving ourselves permission to go in that direction. For so long, I think we're inundated with influencers, and we're seeing the world in such a different way these days, where there's so many things that we see that we might be feel that we're inspired by, but we don't give ourselves the permission to go there. It's not it's too unattainable, it's too grand, it's too big. And so finding being an inspiration to the people around you means being down to earth, being attainable, being a path that they can follow, um, and not just a grand gesture so far out of reach that it doesn't actually change their trajectory at all. So
Yeah. I love that. And actually, this is a plug for Hillary's TED Talk, which you guys should check out. It's on YouTube and on the TED website. But she talks about how when we hear life's whispers, and I think this is what you're alluding to when you're saying inspiration is like listening to that best possible outcome. I think it's also listening to those whispers of you have that moment, maybe, for example, a while ago, I was at the grocery line and this woman in front of me was having trouble and she didn't have enough, wasn't sure how much money she had on her food stamps, and she was telling her daughter she had to put some like graham crackers back or something. And I was just like really prompted in that moment to pay it forward and just show radical generosity. And I said, well, no worries, and like this is not like I would love to just pay it forward and pay for that for you if you don't mind. And if you do, I totally respect that as well. And she was just so grateful. Like it brought her to tears. And it's just amazing. Like when we listen to these tiny whispers, which I think are kind of the future seeds for our inspiration. So that's one small example. But for example, a bigger one would be maybe you're considering starting a business, you're considering quitting your job because it's not, fueling you, or something in your life is really out of balance and you want to start a nonprofit to solve a huge problem. Those bigger callings and those bigger whispers, yeah, sure, it's going to take longer for those seeds to manifest and grow, but man, they are so worth it. What do you think?
yeah, the TEDx came from working with business owners, and I know you feel the same way, where you give so many tools and everyone has access to this information, and you can Google anything in the world and it'll tell you exactly what you need to do in your business, in your life, to move forward. But yet people still stay stuck and stagnant, and in so much reflection and so much research and just really analyzing these conversations I'm having with people, the ones that are able to move forward and to jump into action are the ones who are listening to those tiny little callings throughout their day. And you can practice them by little things like you mentioned at the grocery store. You jump on every little notion you have. If you get used to jumping forward with those notions, then it makes those bigger, more audacious ideas be so much more attainable, because you're just one little step at a time, but momentum is being built and we're working towards those big goals.
Absolutely. And as you gain that momentum, you gain confidence in yourself. You gain confidence and trust in your own intuition and wisdom, which is what helps us get to what I call peak performance. So, on that, I want to ask you, how would you define peak performance and how did you arrive at that definition?
Amazing, and an amazing transition there. That was lovely. Um,
Thank you. I've been practicing.
no, it does. Our messages tie so nicely together, and I think it's really important to see that. But for me, highest, peak performance, if I had to really put my finger on it, it's not the best thing you've ever done in your life once. It's the average of your best performances. You know, it's who you are on average, and hoping that that is getting better and better and better every day, because my peak performance today is going to be very different than it's going to be in 2 years or in 5 years or in 10 years. And I look back at what I considered my peak performance in my 20s, and it was a, mere fraction of what I'm capable of today. So, given a period of time, it's that average of the best you can bring to a situation, whether it's your home life, your marriage, your relationships, your work, your parenting, and realizing that you're going to have bad days. But if we focus on that average, I think that's how I define, my best employees, my peak performing employees, the ones that on average are killing it. But are they perfect? No. Are they always at the top? Maybe not. But they're reliable, and their average is getting higher every day. So that's where I would feel it goes.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that answer, and I like it because if you think about it, you're gonna have these outliers and these days where you just crush it, like everything. You hear every whisper, you just nail it, your energy's right, your life is balanced. But as we know, as entrepreneurs and business owners, and really just humans, life is not like that. It is this crazy roller coaster where it's up and down, and it's more about being able to ride those lows and enjoy those highs and not be attached to the fact that it's going to change like in 5 seconds, in a minute, a month, or a year from now. And I agree. It's really about consistently showing up and showing grit and staying true to your values and what you personally define as success in your life. So I like that, the average of your performance, because that allows your employees, yourself, and your team and those around you to still have failures, right? And define that, like, and not just think that, oh my goodness, I messed up today, I am a failure, but wow, that was an experiment that didn't quite work out. And that's a very different frame than the alternative. And with that, since we're talking about failures, what were some of those challenges along the way that you experienced on, achieving this during your journey to peak performance?
Well, yes, failure is key to what I consider growth in general. I say almost daily, you win some or you lose some. Um, no, I don't say that. I say you win some or you learn some. Because that doesn't make sense. But yes, but truly, you do. You either win and you are proud and excited and lucky, or you learn. And allowing my team, allowing myself, allowing my kids, just in all facets of life, to know that almost more can be gleaned from that failure than from an accidental win, that it opens up this possibility for people to relax, for people to experiment, for people to work outside of their comfort zone and grow and innovate. And it really allows for a culture that I value a lot in my workplace. There's no fear of failure. We fail all the time. We fail every day. Our mantra is that failure is inevitable, but failing twice isn't the best idea. Right? So, if we can take any failure that we have, we can't predict everything. We can't predict human behavior. Even after 22 years in business, people are, you know, going to do their own thing. But once we figure out what we've done wrong, making sure we never do that thing wrong again will continue us to grow. And again, I teach the same lessons to my staff as I do to my own children, as I do to myself. And, I think that's also tying back to what makes a good, strong, inspirational leader is living your word, not just preaching it when you're, 8 hours a day at work. Like that's my life.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we live in the era now of authenticity and integrity, and people can smell BS a mile, probably 20 miles away. They can smell it online. Let's be real. You get those spammy, salesy things on email or LinkedIn. You're like, ew, that's gross. Not interested. There's a better way to do this. In fact, a lot of times I reply back and I'm like, hey, do you want some help with your campaign? Because that is probably not working for you. But I love your mantra of failure is learning. And I like to look at when I feel like I'm in a season of quote unquote failure, I like to remind myself that this is the universe, God, the world teaching me a lesson that maybe I'm a little too thick headed to get. And I'm like, what am I supposed to be learning right now? And when I transition to that kind of frame set, a frame like that mindset, it really helps me get creative and really see, I guess, the blessings, the lessons in disguise that kind of take a little bit of hindsight. Sometimes you can't really see it when you're in the storm, but I learn so much. And that's really the key is as long as you're learning and growing, nothing is ever a failure. And so, with that, I want to expand on that and hear a little bit more about how you're using those lessons, those mantras to create a culture in your organization on peak performance.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process. It has to be infused into every meeting, every conversation. It has to live and breathe. And I think there was a portion of my professional life where I was still so scatterbrained that I would come up with a great idea, would do it once, and then it would cease to exist, and so I've been really conscious as I've gotten older and wiser to either not introduce an initiative that I know I don't have the capacity to maintain, and or to make sure that the things that are important get infused into everything. So, having paying attention to our office culture and our team culture is something that we do. In every single meeting, we have some sort of professional development exercise at every monthly meeting. Um, our review process of events is very, very simple, and it's not moving from one thing to the next without taking a breath and learning our lessons. So no matter what the event is, no matter what the no how big or small, the project sheet is very simple. Did we hit our goals? What did we learn? What will we do different next time? And just that simple step of reviewing every single event and process allows us to make growth patterns every single time. Um, and then you pull that project sheet before you start over, and there's always a new problem that pops up, but at least we're not making that same mistake twice. So yeah, it's just consistency.
Yeah. Well, and I like that. I like the word infusion, infusing those values of growth and learning into your culture, in your organizations is really helpful. And when you're walking that talk, and I think I was just talking with somebody earlier today about how, as a leader, to create trust and integrity and a space where people feel safe to fail and learn requires vulnerability. And so earlier in our conversation, you shared how, one of the things that makes you an inspirational leader is admitting when you have done something wrong. So I imagine you're also sharing some of those experiences and lessons learned with your employees to also kind of walk that talk so that they then feel compelled to do the same. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Oh, 100%. And actually it's twofold. So, on one hand, I am very transparent about all those mistakes. I mean, it's in my bio. I literally want to help people not make nearly as many mistakes as I have. I was a stubborn 20 something trying to run a business, thinking that I knew better and that I knew it all, and I was immature. And so I had so much trial and error in my past. So yes, I share that with my team. But on the flip side, you also need to give them the space to fail, because they can hear so much. They can listen so much, but it's the feeling of that failure that will help them make the solution for the next time, and not have that same thing happen. I find that a lot of people who are having trouble with delegation are the piece they're missing is that they jump in and save every time. Jump in and save, jump in and save. And if you're constantly saving your staff from the pain of failure, they're never really going to be able to make those big changes and those consistent, moving forward growth patterns. So letting them fail, but then also being like, yep, I did that. I've been there. I know how you feel. Let's not do that again. And it works.
Yeah, yeah, creating that safety net, that feeling of safety, and making sure that other employees understand that value set of allowing people to make those mistakes takes some time.
Right.
And so, since we're talking about your employee experience, I wanted to ask you a bit more about that. Like, how important is the employee experience for you to achieve peak performance in your companies?
I would say it's top of the list. Happy people are happy employees. And so, not just working on beanbags in the staff lounge and, you know, free Diet Coke. Making sure that there is a culture of boundaries, of healthful living, of just life balance is really important for me too, to make sure that my whole staff has that. They also have an understanding of their growth potential and where they can go in the business. Um, you know, any kind of affirmations you can give them, any kind of reward systems. It is so important for a small business owner, especially to get as quickly out of the day to day as possible, so that you can focus 100% of your energy back on your people. But if you are still drowning in the day to day, all of that is getting missed, and that's really what's going to help your entire business achieve that peak performance, I think, um, because it's full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important reminder. For those of you who have not listened or heard the E Myth book, there's this one particular pillar and tenet of success that they speak to, and it's about how when you're stuck in the business, which is what Hillary's alluding to, the day to day, you don't have capacity to work on your business. And what that means is the strategic, the vision, the mission, making sure you're still aligned to where you're going with your long-term legacy as a business leader. And when you miss that connection for your employees and staff members, they have no idea where they're actually going because they're not connected to your vision and mission, but equally they're not as invested, so you're more likely to have really high turnover. And then the worst part is it bleeds into your customer experience, which is what I want to ask you about next. Because if you have unhappy employees, you have a terrible customer experience. So, what have you done to optimize your customer experience in your companies?
I love that you tied that together, because it is such a trickle down, making
Yeah.
sure that the customers, that the staff is aligned with my core values, our mission. They understand the reasons why we make decisions. They understand how it's for whatever greater good. And they're being able to pass that information down confidently to the customer in the same conversational way, in the same, using the same words that I would. And I remember years ago, I was learning about just missions, your mission statement and your core values. And I remember thinking, like, as a customer, I have never once gone into a store and said, I want to shop here because I agree with their mission statement. Maybe an exception would be like Tom's when they were putting shoes on the whole world or something. But most mission statements are kind of, stock, and even if you see it on the wall in a pizza shop, you're not like really excited about it. But it was finally that I learned and understood, and I don't remember which speaker I gleaned this information from, but that your mission is for your business. It's for your employees. It's so that your employees understand why you make decisions the way that you do, so that they can pass that knowledge down to the customer, and remove you from the equation. So they no longer have to ask me, should we give this refund? Should we offer them another class? Should we help this mom out, or whatever it ends up being, because they know what my answer would be based on our mission and our core values. And once I understood that, it became so freeing, and it really allowed us to kind of take the business to the next level, because the customer experience got that much better, because no one's waiting for me to answer a question, and the answers that my staff is giving are aligned with everything, and our customers become ideal because they appreciate those answers. So it's really just full circle, and it all plays into each other. And I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, we can give away free t-shirts all day long, but if your core, values of your company aren't aligned, none of that stuff matters.
Yeah, the way I like to sum it up for people when they're like, "Oh, I don't understand why I'd spend so much time on my mission, my vision, my values." That is the heart of your business success because it is your North Star, your compass. It is what guides you, your employees, your partners, your promoters, your co marketers on exactly where you're heading. And it gives you that guidance and freedom to experiment with wording that aligns to your personality and character that still is, bubbling up to the company you're representing. And it helps the employees buy into that because they get it and they're excited. They can get behind it because it aligns to what they want. And they see that they're contributing to something larger than themselves. So if you're listening to this and you're still a little hung up on like why it's important, hopefully some of this is resonating, because once that light bulb turns on, it makes everything so much easier because you're always going back to your vision and your mission. And that is where it's at. Now, For those of you listening here, we talk about money as well. So we're going to shift gears from peak performance to revenue, or when people say, show me the money. So, Hillary, when have you left money on the table and what did you do to fix it? Since we're being authentic about mistakes here.
When have I left money on the table? So I actually, because of my willingness to fail, I can say that that's happened quite a few times. I get excited and I run through the the options, and I will test things. One of the times I left money on the table, I started a business quite a few years ago before COVID, and and I went a little crazy with it, and I invested in a website and all the things, and it wasn't the right time. Basically, I wasn't able to invest my full um, self into it. I didn't have the team to support it. And literally I go back to that venture so many times in my newer ventures, and run through a mental checklist. Do I have a champion for that new venture, that new business? Do I have a financial forecast, which at the time I wasn't doing because I didn't know what I know now. Do I have seed money that I'm willing to throw away? Am I able to invest in this process? Do I have the personal capacity to invest into this and the time to invest in this right now? And having that failure in my kind of tool belt has given me so much more success moving forward, because the 3 or 4 things I have done since then, I have done so much more methodically, so much more intentionally, and with so much more preparation and work, that they've been much more successful, obviously. So, again, anytime you leave money on the table, anytime you spend money, waste money, as long as you don't do it twice, it's a lesson learned, you know?
Yeah, and I like that you reframed that and took that experience where you had a profit loss, you had a monetary loss, but you had wisdom gained and you created a checklist so that you didn't do that mistake again. And in fact, you were basically preempting to ensure that you didn't leave money on the table again, which is a great lesson learned. So, for folks listening, perhaps you've had a failed business. I'd encourage you to do what Hillary just did and go back and take this exercise and journal about, what reflections did you learn from this? If you had a checklist for a future opportunity, what would you do differently? What would be the deal breakers? What would be the must haves? And then really trusting that and going back to that list when you reconsider things instead of, second guessing yourself and not having faith and belief in yourself. Just because you fail at your first business doesn't mean you're not good in business. In fact, let's be real, if we look at the statistics out there, most people don't make it past their first year. It's very, very difficult. It's an extremely small percentage to make it past year 5. So, and by the way, I just celebrated 5 years. 5 years. So I'm like, oh, thank goodness I made it. Oh,
You
I
did
can
it.
breathe a little easier. But that's a great way to reframe it. And so it's, how do you fix that profit leak? How do you make sure you don't go through that same experience again? So, Hillary, if you could like wave a magic wand, wouldn't be so great if magic actually existed, and show that your profit leaks were there and you could fix them and go back in time, what would you do with that knowledge?
Systemize it, like that's the greatest gift I have been given in my years of experience, is just learning that, as good as my gut is, because I think once you've been in business 5, 10 years, if you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants, you do have a knack for this. You have your gut, you listen to your gut, you made a lot of decisions, most of them were right, enough of them were right to get you where you are. And it's that ability to just get by that makes you think that that's enough, right? And so, once you dive in and really start scrutinizing those decisions and realizing, yes, it got you by, but was it the best decision? And realizing the only way to do that is to have numbers backing things, to systemize your processes, and to go in it with much more intention. It makes the difference between barely getting by and crazy profitable. And so if someone could tell me, if I could look at that, and now I really want to go look at every one of my profit leaks and systematically go through one at a time, top to bottom, how much is that going to, what am I leaving on the table down to the penny? Start at the highest number and work my way down. I mean, one at a time, that would be a huge priority for me. And like I said, I think I'm going to go do that right now. So,
By the way, as a reminder to my existing clients and the people listening, that's exactly what I do when I do revenue and performance consulting. We look at all of these things. So I love your answer on systemizing. The reason is that systemizing is how you scale. And kind of going back to the tenets of email, it's a brilliant book. Like it's a great foundation. You cannot scale, and I'm going to say this 3 times. You cannot scale anything without systemizing and documenting what you do in your business. I'm actually not going to say it 3 times, but listen to that 3 times if you need to hear that message, because that is truth. And the more you become systematic with what is successful, again, you're systematic with what is successful, not what failed, because we've already talked about when you fail twice, that's insanity. We don't want to do that. But once you systemize the lessons learned and what does work for success, that's where the magic in business happens. That's where you find your revenue and profit. And the mistake people make in business, especially entrepreneurs, they're so obsessed with the new shiny object and they're so obsessed with trying the new experiment, but they don't systemize what already works. Great, chase that shiny object, but systemize success first so that you have the profit to put it back in the business for that next experiment. And then obviously go back and reflect on the experiment to see, was that successful? If not, what can I learn from it? What should I add to my toolkit that I got value from? And then add that to the system as well. So I'm just going to pause there and see what you think about that as well, Hillary.
oh, I mean, again, lessons learned over life. And now I'm 100% on board with that. And you and I have talked a little bit about this already, talking about scaling your business based on systems. As well as I understood that and did it, I got to a point with my business most recently where I had systemized, I got myself out of the day to day of my business. And then it doesn't end. If as you want to continue to scale and continue to grow and continue to become more profitable, you've got to stay on top of it and do it again. Right now I have an amazing team because of all of the work I do with my team. I have a super loyal team, and we're running into the similar problem where now all of those systems are in their heads, and pulling them back out so that we can scale to the next level. It's consistency. It's the boring stuff. It's not the shiny object. And if that's not you, I guess my other kind of words of wisdom is, if that is not the way your brain works, hire someone who does. That is the most important zone of genius that needs to be covered in your business. And if it's not yours, be aware of that and allow someone else to take the reins on that, because it's not going to go anywhere without it.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that too, I would say, even if you are good at this, I'm very good at this. That's what I do professionally, but sometimes you need somebody externally and objective because you're so close to it to come in and tell you what you don't know because you can't see your own blind spots. So you really can't. And I'm sure you've experienced this. You coach things and it's funny, like my book, my TED talk, I have my family members say, this really brilliant woman once said X, and they're quoting my book or my talk. And I'm like, oh, I did it again. I missed my darn blind spot. Like, no wonder I'm still working in masterminds and coaching and like still learning.
Yes.
And I would say also for folks listening, like if you're hiring a consultant or a coach, if they're not continually investing in their own growth, they're not somebody you should hire.
Yes.
Because once you stop learning, you are not remaining relevant in the industry you're serving, in the work that you're doing, etc. And you cannot see your own blind spots. That's why they're blind spots.
So true. So painfully true.
Yeah. But shifting back to that very, very attractive shiny object that we have syndromes around, what is the next shiny object that you would like to turn into a new revenue stream?
Oh, I actually have so many.
They always do. Everybody asks this question too, never answers one. It's like 2 or 3.
Yes, I mean, that's what makes us good at this. We're entrepreneurs. We're creative types. Where our brains never stop. I actually have to make sure that I live close to my work, because if I drive for too long, I have too many ideas and I can't contain them. Driving in showers. Like I take short showers and drive very little. because I can't
My goodness, what do you do when you take a bath, or do
no,
you?
no, no, no baths. My staff won't allow it. But no, I do. I have multiple different businesses, and honestly, there's one thing on the horizon for each. Um, we're looking at doing some satellite locations for the dance studio. We're looking at expanding and building a theater within the next couple years for my dance photo pro business, which is an online course essentially. We're looking at targeting an entirely separate fractal of industry and tweaking it slightly and approaching all that. But the difference is I'm not chasing the shiny thing. We are systematically building the plans. This is literally the most like mature I've ever felt in my life. We're doing it right. We're taking our time. I'm not just like, yeah, let's try that. That'll be great. And so far we're building it out the right way. So I should be able to attack those things within the next 2 to 3 years, which again is the time frame I used to not work in. It was 6 to 8 months max. And I'm really excited about them still and really proud of that. So hopefully
Yeah.
they'll all go great.
Which of those 3 are you most excited about?
Probably the satellite locations because those get like interior design. And I'm pretty and I get to, pick colors and stuff. The other ones are more back end technical growth, and that's less exciting for me.
Yeah, well, I also see a lot of revenue opportunities with that because you can use it for online recordings. You can use it for if you wanted to do some sort of live stream show to kind of be a top of a funnel. You could use it for local events that you can kind of repurpose the space with different kind of interesting movable furniture.
Mm.
You could use it as a meeting space for potential clients as you have new shiny objects you want to chase. So there's a lot of different ways to monetize that. It can even be a space for events or conferences, depending on how big that satellite location is, as well as other photography industries outside of dance, as long as the space and the colors and the design flowed for that. But there's so many options in physical spaces to monetize those revenue streams on and offline, especially with modular furniture design and modular things. So that one is a huge, I can see why that's exciting.
Yeah.
And I also love doing like interior design. So I totally understand you.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about that as well. So, this has been a super amazing, really packed full of ninja tips and wisdom for people that they can tangibly take action on. I think we shared at least 3 exercises or reflection points that everyone can go back, listen to on repeat, hit pause. If you need to hear a message a few times, listen to it as many times until it sinks into your psyche and take action on that. We'd love to also hear as you look on YouTube or on the podcast your comments on what you took action on, because that's what this is all about. So as we wrap up, I'm going to ask you 2 really rapid fire questions. What is the one best piece of advice that you would share with everyone today?
Like I said, I have so many mantras. Um, I think the strongest one that I want to impart on my kids and just as people in general that's separate from business is just be true to your word. Do what you say you're going to do. Be a reliable person. And that allows you then to be true to your values, which allows you then to learn from your mistakes, then it trickles into so many other things. But be a person of your word, and so many other good things come from that.
Yeah, the foundation of success really is integrity and authenticity. So that is massive wisdom. If you guys take action on that, you'll see massive success no matter where you go in your life or business. And my last question is, what is the legacy you wish to leave behind?
My why that has changed over the generations, and I think I'm sticking with this for a while here, is to bring opportunity to as many people as possible. And by opportunity, I mean whether that means my staff having opportunity to grow within their position, to have full-time jobs, to be able to live their creative life while also making a living. I'm considering, one of the other shiny objects is considering building a contemporary company for my kids that are graduating and aren't getting a job in New York or LA. Like I want to give them an opportunity to express themselves that way. With the studio owners that I work with all the businesses that I coach, giving them the opportunity to have the balanced life and the freedom and make a living doing what they love. That's what I always come back to. I want to give people opportunity. And if I can create opportunity and in as many ways possible, I keep thinking like my interns, we have like 15 interns from high schools because we just love for them to have the opportunity to learn and grow in that space. Yeah, I just want people to say like, she always believed in me and she gave us an opportunity to live our very best lives. That's what I hope they say.
Amazing. That is a beautiful legacy. So for those of you listening today, tune into those whispers. Listen to your vision and mission as your North Star. Share it with your employees. Pay it forward. If you have opportunities you can share those opportunities. We certainly need more of that in the world. To learn more about Hillary, who, by the way, I can vet for, she's an amazing speaker. I've seen her live on the TEDx stage. I will be sharing her website as well as her LinkedIn profile in the show notes. Feel free to reach out to her directly through either of those mechanisms and tools. If you like today's show, please give us 5 stars on whatever your favorite podcast player is. I love your comments as well. It's funny, I hadn't looked at any of the comments for like the last year, and I saw some comments. I'm like, wow, people actually get inspiration from this. Amazing. It is like such a boost when you have one of those rough days. You're like, cool, I'm doing something that's good in this world. So if you like the podcast, please share it. Please give us 5-star reviews. And we look forward to seeing more of you soon and spread inspiration in the world because we need more of it today. Thank you for joining the show today. I hope you were inspired. More importantly, I hope you take action. If the show inspired you, I ask that you subscribe and share it with your network. Let's spread inspiration together today.